Hello, friends. Welcome back to Arctic's 8-Bit Bytes. And thanks for being a part of this new adventure. If you're into AV engineering, programming, or anything tech-related, you're in the right place. And today, I'm diving back into the platform that kicked off my journey into AV programming, Crestron SIMPL Windows. So here's how it all started many years ago. After finally finishing my Crestron training, I was thrown into the deep end of commercial AV programming, but almost immediately, I hit several walls with my programming. How do I add touch panels and devices last minute and avoid all the extra hours of repetitive programming that came along with that? And what's the easiest way to make my programming more scalable? So I figured out a way to make my own programming structure. It's a scalable structure with naming conventions for touch panels and devices, plus something I call a Command Translator, and it bridges the gap between the two. This structure is very similar to what you do with Crestron crosspoints, but a much more simple approach. And once you follow this structure, you can copy, paste, and scale an unlimited number of times. I've created a small sample program to demonstrate this technique, and it's broken down into 7 simple steps. Now, real quick, before we begin the tutorial, if you're enjoying this channel and want more AV engineering and programming content, please click the subscribe button below. Subscribing helps this channel to grow, and it keeps me motivated to keep making more. All right, let's dive back into the tutorial. I want to show you my simple Windows workflow and explain how it works. Okay, step 1, let's set up the hardware. We're going to start a brand new simple Windows program, and we're going to simulate this concept and naming structure we're going to create 3 touch panels in the hardware setup. And then we're going to also create 3 TCP IP clients, and I want to simulate talking to a couple LG TVs via Ethernet. So the idea here is we're going to fill out all the signals on one of the touch panels and a couple of page flips. And we're going to fill out one of our device drivers. And I want to show you how you can copy and paste your signals between blocks. And then we're also going to show how you can take this Command Translator to bridge the gap between your touch panel buttons and your device drivers. And assuming we follow this naming structure, you'll be able to copy and paste all your blocks, including your logic folders. Okay, so we got 3 touch panels filled out now, and then go to Ethernet control modules and Ethernet inter-system device communication, and here we got our TCP IP client. We're going to drag 3 of those in. Okay, now go under your program view and Ethernet, and we need to give all of these blocks some names. So click on one, hit tab, and then we're going to follow the square bracket naming structure. So all of our touch panels and all the touch panel signals are going to be square bracket TP1 or TP2 or TP3. And then all of our device drivers are going to follow the same naming scheme. So we're going to call this display 1, display 2, and display 3. Okay, there we go. So we have all our blocks pulled into the program. Okay, step 2. We need to create the program folders. So creating these folders are part of the naming structure to make this all work so we can start copying and pasting. And what I like to do is like to have all my device drivers under their own folder, and then every touch panel has its own folder. And we're going to throw all of our display drivers under a folder called displays. And then if we have like audio DSP, connections or drivers, that'd be its own folder. And then we're going to make a TP1 folder. And then under TP1, we want to do a nav folder, and then we're going to do a general logic folder. And then we'll create our other touch panel folders later. Okay, step 3. Let's pull the drivers into the program. So I've taken this LG device driver and I've dropped it into the same spot as our program folder. So when you do in Alt-Y, it's going to pop up under project modules. And as you can see, there it is. So let's drag in 3 of those. I'm going to do Alt-Y to collapse that view there. We're going to hit Tab so we can give them names. We're going to call them Display 1, 2, and 3. We could call it Device 1, 2, and 3, whatever you want to. There we go. Okay, let's go into our first one. And we're going to give it some signal names, but we're not going to add the Device 1 or Display 1 prefix yet. So we'll add that after the fact. And the idea here is once we get one of these filled out, we're going to copy and paste it to the other blocks. And then we're going to use the F9 command to do search and replace to change it, so we can copy and paste all our signals between blocks. Let's do our feedbacks. Oops, little typo. And our TX and RX at the bottom of this block are going to feed our TCP/IP client blocks that we added earlier. Okay, so now highlight them all and do Alt-Shift-6. And we're going to add the prefix device 1. And then the next two are device 1, device 2, and device 3. So if you do a right-click drag to the next block, and we're going to do copy all signals and perimeters, now we have all three blocks the same. They're going to say device 1. So now we're going to go in and hit F9 and do search and replace. So each block now has unique names. Device 1, device 2, and device 3. We could have used display 1, display 2, display 3 also. Maybe that would have made more sense. But okay, now we're copying our transmit and receive from each LG module into our TCP/IP client block. I usually comment out my connect signal. That way we can at least see it in debugger, but it's still there. I'll do the same thing with the analog there. Okay, and now that we have one of those, we're going to do the same thing. Right-click, drag, copy all signals and perimeters, and then go to that one. We're going to hit F9. So we're just basically doing a search and replace on each one of those. Okay, now we have our device drivers done. Okay, step 4. Let's add some touch panel signals. And we're going to add these all to touch panel 1. And we're going to follow our naming structure or naming scheme. That way we can, towards the end, we're going to be able to copy and paste a lot more easily. So we're going to do a press to start button. This press to start button will be on our splash page. And we're not going to really show any graphics or anything, and this is all kind of hypothetical. And then we're going to have an exit button that exits our main page back to splash. Those are kind of nav buttons. So anything that deals with nav, I like to give the heading of nav. And here we're going to do a couple, we're going to simulate like on our main page, you know, an audio page, a video page, and a light page. And then these signals are, on our main page, we're going to have power on and power off for all our displays. And so what I'm going to do here is we're just going to do the first 3 button presses. And if we highlight those and do a Control-C to copy, go up to Paste Special, and increment first number, and that allows us to paste the other 2. Now we don't have to keep typing those. And what I'm doing there is I'm doing F6, which copies the signal over, highlight them all, and do a search and replace, and change button to feedback. F6, F6, search and replace it, which is F9, change button to feedback. Okay, now we're going to do our page flips there. Main page, splash page, audio page. So we've got our splash page, our main page, and then we've got, I call them pop-ups. That's what the PP stands for. Okay, now we have all our signals filled out. Now what I want to do is we need to add the prefix to all these signals. And we're going to call it TP1. So any button press on touch panel 1, it will always have the heading TP1. And that's key for all this whole naming scheme. That'll allow us to copy all the signals from touch panel 1 over to touch panel 2 and eventually do a search and replace and change that to TP2 instead of TP1. And the neat thing is because all the devices, they don't have that heading, so when we do search and replace, it won't affect any of the device signals in our Command Translator. So we're going to get to that, but that's key. And now I'm just dragging in some of the analogs. Now with the analogs, I'm not going to put the heading TP1 or TP2 because the analogs I can have multiple analogs driving multiple touch panels, and it doesn't need to be unique. So our analog values will not be in this so-called command translator. They're just straight. Okay, step 5, nav buffer and page navigation. So this is a little added extra. In addition to command translators, I like to do what's called a nav buffer. So we're going to add a buffer, and then we're going to add 2 interlocks. And I like to do my page flips with interlocks. Some people like to do analog equate and analog initialize, but I choose interlock. So one of these is actually going to do our page flips, and the other one's going to do our button feedback on the touch panel. So under nav buffer, put a 1 in enable. And we're going to take our buttons that are actually doing our page flips on our main page, and we're going to drag those in there. And we're going to copy them over, and instead of saying button, we're going to call them buff. What that does is that allows us to do page flips within the nav buffer. And then we have our 2 main buttons, press to start, and from the main page, we're going to exit back to splash. So we're going to copy those buttons in, and we're going to make stuff happen when those buttons are pressed. So by copying the press to start button twice, we can do 2 different functions. And one is we're going to do the main page flip, and then we're also going to make sure that that audio page layer is popped up too when you go to the main page. Okay, now let's go to our interlock. And instead of actually using the button press, we're going to use the buff signal instead. We go down to our touch panel, and yeah, this is where our pop-up layer, the actual signal to drive our VT Pro E or to drive our layer flips. And then we're going to use the same buff signals, but this is going to drive our feedback. So when you press the page button on our main, the button will light up. And in our nav buffer, also notice that everything has the TP1 heading because it's in the TP1 folder. That's key. So when we copy and paste to TP2, all the stuff will copy too. Step 6, the command translator. This is where I get to show you where it all comes together. Kind of excited. All right. So we're going to go under the TP1 folder and under our main logic folder, and we're going to add a buffer. And we're going to hit tab and call it Command Translator. Put a 1 under Enable. And the idea here is our button presses and our signals on the touch panel are then going to get connected to our functions in our devices folder. Touch panel to device commands. And all of our touch panel signals have the heading of TP1. And all of our device functions are not going to have that heading. And because we followed the device 1, device 2, device 3, we can do control copy, paste special to save some time there. And now we need to set up our device feedbacks. So we're going to copy all the feedback signals from our devices, put those on the left, and that'll drive the feedback for our buttons on the touch panel. Doing a copy paste special to save time. Yes, we do want to do that. Okay, so we've got our device drivers and our device feedbacks plopped in. Now we need to go to our touch panel and put in our touch panel signals to match up to the device commands. All right, there are our actual button presses from the touch panel, and see how they all have the TP1 heading. So every single signal on touch panel 1 will have that square bracket TP1. Now let's connect our device feedbacks to our button feedbacks. There we go, it's that simple. So as you can see, touch panel signals are driving device signals. Command translator number 1 is done. Step 7, the magic. Copy, paste, and scale. This is where we get to have fun. Because we followed our naming scheme and we've got our command translators This is where we get to copy all our signals from touch panel 1 to touch panel 2. So do a right click, copy all signals and perimeters. Okay. So now touch panel 2 all has a bunch of TP1s in it. And let's do the same thing to TP3. Right click, copy, paste all. Now let's go into TP2 and do a search and replace. We're going to change all those signals from TP1 to TP2. So now all the button presses will have a TP2 heading. Boom. So now touch panel 2 is all unique. Now let's do the same thing with touch panel 3. F9, search and replace. Okay, now touch panel 3 all has unique button presses. We're just going to go back through and verify that search and replace actually worked, and it did. See how our signals are lit up because they're not connected to control logic yet, but they will be. Okay, now let's go down to our TP1 folder. Let's hit copy, go up to logic, hit paste, and we want to create 3 folders. Now let's do an F9 search and replace on this folder. So we're able to change all the signals on our logic folder because we adhered to that naming scheme. Now we've got 3 nav buffers, we've got 3 command translators. See how we're looking at the touch panel 2 command translator. Now it all says TP2. And our command translator for here says TP3 now. But notice, because our device drivers, our device commands don't have that heading, it didn't change when we did a search and replace. The only thing that changed were the touch panel button presses. That allows us to copy and paste the entire logic folder. And it only affects what you want to affect. So I'm showing here touch panel 1 signals now are all happy and they're connected to their command translator. I think I'm going to go through and show touch panel 2 too. We're just double checking to make sure that all the logic is lining up now. Our TP1 command translator and go to, and there we go. Copy, paste, and scale. Thanks for watching Arctic's 8-Bit Bytes, where I'm pleased to be your Internet AV engineering and programming resource. If you enjoyed this video, please click like and subscribe for more AV programming content. Thank you.